Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? Everybody doing good? We're about to start here in just a second, but first, I want to make sure that my audio is doing good. So if everyone can hear me, okay, then we want to go ahead and take off. We're going to be talking about marketing automation, not marketing automation, marketing domination today through content marketing, and I'm excited to talk about this today. I'm excited about kind of diving into content marketing in 2020. Even though that's just a few months off, we're going to turn around a couple times, and 2020 is going to be here. And content marketing is changing from a principle standpoint, but then there's a lot of content marketing that is actually going to stay the same, right? And so it's going to be a little bit different in how we execute, but some of the fundamentals will stay the same. A lot of people aren't doing the fundamentals quite right. So I just want to talk about that today. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, but I do want to check and make sure that everyone can hear me okay. As far as I can tell, the stream is going good. I think you're actually getting audio from my microphone this time and not from my camera, which was happening at the beginning of the stream last time. But we've got a few people on today, and we're just going to get right into it. So if you're on the actual broadcast page on our website, if you want to join in and actually join the conversation, and if you have any questions that are going to pop up, you're going to want to click that link on the right-hand side, or if you're on mobile, it's probably down below. But click that link, go to the YouTube app, and watch this stream on YouTube, because that's the chat that I'm watching. And if you have any other questions, or if you have questions, you put them into the chat. That's where I'm going to be looking for them. So go ahead and make the jump over to YouTube. I'll give you a couple of seconds before we jump 100% into the content here, so everyone can get over there if you are on our website broadcast page right now. I've tried to figure out how to embed the YouTube chat, and every time I get it almost working, something happens and it breaks on the website. So there's a lot of people discussing this. YouTube's changed something that makes embedding the chat a little bit difficult. So in the future, we might actually pick up a different, we might not just stream straight to YouTube. We might use Facebook Live or something, or we might use something like Crowdcast. I know that's a good one. I've used it in the past. If you're going to do anything live, especially like a summit or a live event, Crowdcast is what I would recommend. Crowdcast, I think it's .io. It's a really great tool. We might be putting that into practice here in the near future, and not just relying on YouTube chat to bring in our Q&As. But I've stalled long enough, and now we're going to jump right into the content. Again, if you want to ask questions, you're going to have to do that in YouTube chat before, in order for it to get to it. Now, I've had several people email me after the stream with questions, and I appreciate that. I do like getting the feedback, but rather than send those questions to me in email after the fact, why don't you just jump into YouTube, put them in there? Because a lot of times the question that you are asking, other people on the stream are also interested in. Some people are just either too shy or just too lazy, or just don't want to put the question in, but it is a question in their mind. So if you have the question in your mind, more than likely multiple people have the question in their mind. So just jump into the YouTube chat stream and put that question in there, and then the answer to that would help multiple people rather than me just responding to one person at a time in email. So let's talk about content marketing. Over the last few weeks, we've been kind of leading up to this, and I don't know if you've noticed it or not, but we have had a series going on. So we started with talking about marketing and how content fits into the marketing thing. We talked about keyword research last week, and how keyword research, the execution of the insights that you get from keyword research hasn't changed. And the methods of keyword research haven't really changed. Gaming the system always changes, but when you're doing the things that Google wants you to do, the game rarely changes. And you want to make sure that you play that game, because you don't want to put all kinds of investment into a new gimmick or something this month and then turn around and Google penalize all that next month, and you lose all of that investment. The best way to have long-term growth is just to do what Google wants you to do, and what it's wanted everyone to do for the rest of time. So let's talk about that a little bit. Looks like my stream preview is refreshing on my phone. If everybody can still hear me, please send me a message or something through Slack. Looks like it's buffering, but I see all good signs on my side as far as the health of the stream. So let's see if I can just restart this here. Just want to make sure that it's working. Looks like it is. Awesome. Just want to make sure the stream is healthy before we jump in. Let's jump in. I'm just going to go with it. Again, thank you, Digitopia. Thank you so much. We're going to jump into the content now. We're going to talk about the content side. So back to what I was saying before I got distracted by a refreshing stream on my phone. I'm trying to keep track here just so that I know everything's healthy. Last week we were talking about keyword research and then how to take that keyword and put it into your content. And this week I'm going to talk about content marketing kind of as a whole, the general idea of it, and look at what is happening that's causing content marketing not to perform like it used to, and where that's going. I think this is going to be very interesting to a lot of people, especially when we get into the very end. You want to stay to the end because that's the really juicy part. But in order to get to that, I really have to go to some context. So I'm going to build context here for a little bit and then talk about the thing that I think is most important. So I'm going to jump over to my desktop here. We're talking about content marketing domination, and to dominate in content marketing, it's about giving value with optimized content in the mediums that the customer wants. And I would say this entire thing here, giving value with optimized content in mediums is all one thing. What the customer wants is another thing. So we want to give value, we want to optimize that content, and we want to provide that content in the medium that the customer wants it in, but we also want to provide the value that the customer wants, right? So value and mediums are important to what the customer wants. We have to deliver on this, and then for the machine, we have to optimize content for the machine so that the customer can actually find it. So if you're going to dominate in content marketing, you actually have to do all of that. You have to give value. Thank you, Brenda. Glad you're watching from Canada. That's interesting. I'm actually very close to Canada. I'm in Seattle. You have to give value, and you have to give value in the medium that the customer wants, but then you have to optimize that value and that content for the channel that the medium is going to find, or the customer is going to find it on. So when it comes to content marketing, of course, this is all kind of basic, but again, I'm building context for something that I think is super important. Content marketing is blog posts, white papers, podcasts, videos, live streams, social posts, and any other kind of content that you create out there. Whatever your customer is looking for, whatever your customer wants, that's the kind of content that you need to be creating. I think it's important that a lot of people kind of overlook YouTube now, and they're still kind of playing the content game as far as just like blog posts, white papers, ebooks. They're still kind of playing that game, and they're ignoring YouTube. But YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. So, 10 years ago, people, when they wanted to solve a problem, they would search on Google because that was really the only option. And if they found a video, it was hosted on some source, maybe it was hosted on YouTube, but they would find it on Google. And most of the time it was like written content and images out to kind of show everything. But now more than ever, people are going straight to YouTube and searching their question and looking because they want someone to show them, or they want to see someone, they want to hear, they want to watch. And so behavior has changed, and as behavior has changed, a lot of the market share has gone over to YouTube. That's why YouTube's the second largest search engine, and it's gaining ground. It's gaining ground on Google, even though Google owns them. And so you can't ignore YouTube video, but then at the same time, you've got Twitter video now, you have Instagram TV, you have LinkedIn that's now like really pushing video, and LinkedIn, if you haven't noticed recently, people are starting to go live on LinkedIn. So you have a lot of people that are kind of circling the wagons around video because the market is signaling that. So when it comes to content marketing, what you really need to do, it's this basic. Find out how your target customers solve their problems. If it's Google, if it's YouTube, if it's through social media, asking questions, tweeting out, how do I do this? Find out what your customers do, where they go to solve their problems, and that's where you create your content. And if you want to market, if you want to dominate in content marketing, you actually have to become somewhat, as far as your customers are thinking. Wow, this is off center here. You have to become at least a little bit what your customers are thinking, is omnipresent. So if your customers see you on Google, if your customers see you on LinkedIn, they also need to see you on YouTube when they go there. They need to see you on Facebook when they go there. And if you have your content across all of these different platforms, then you'll win. And so it kind of comes down to this repurposing game. If you're not repurposing your content in 2019, you really need to be. One piece of content, let's just put it this way. 10 years ago, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit, content has changed. 10 years ago, I could take something, create a 500-word article, put it out there, and it worked, right? It doesn't work like that anymore. Now we have to make pretty heavy investments. Content, if it performs, is getting more and more expensive to create. And so since we're spending all this money, if we create a YouTube video, for example, if we're spending all this money creating this YouTube video, we need to maximize the amount of value that we get out of that because we made the investment. So if you invest all in making a YouTube video, then have someone transcribe that. Like go to rev.com, give them that video, have them transcribe it, and then just have someone turn that into a blog post. And then from that blog post, pull out quotes and make Instagram quote cards. From that video, pull out the audio. Like Gary Vee, he doesn't sit down and record podcasts for his own channel, and it's all these clips from all these different things that he's putting together and making podcast episodes, or at least a member of his staff is. So you can take the audio from your video and make a podcast out of it. You can take the podcast, and if you've seen these guys it's like an image with the moving waveform that's showing the podcast. There's several different tools that do that. But you can take a clip of your podcast and make a LinkedIn video out of it that gets a lot of engagement. You can do the same. You can take the same topic. Let's say I'm Facebook Living right now on content marketing domination. I can take this same topic. If I was just recording this video, and I could go on Facebook Live and just have a discussion, right? I could take clips from that discussion and post them in social. You can repurpose a single piece of content into so many different things, and you really should, because not only does it make you omnipresent, but it extends the ROI that you get out of every piece of content. It makes it more valuable because you're able to engage people all across the board. And so if you're going to dominate in content marketing, you do need to think about being omnipresent, at least in terms of your customer. Being on all of the channels that your customer engages in, everywhere, right? And that's how you build that familiarity. You have to understand, if you're going to dominate content marketing, this is really the big thing. And I'm going to get to that second point at the end, but you have to deliver not only on the medium that your customer wants, but you have to deliver the value that your customer wants. And this has been a tactic that we have practiced for the last 10 years. You ask, we answer. If you know anything about Marcus Sheridan, you've heard that statement about 400 times. I got to work with Marcus Sheridan early on in my career, and he's the one that was teaching me all this. If they ask a question, you answer it. And so in order to create a content strategy, what we did is we got everybody in the entire company, and we said, okay, what questions are people asking? And we just brainstormed all kinds of questions. That's still a very, very valuable practice, by the way. But we got all of the questions that we've heard people, from sales and support, and then we just started creating content answering all of those questions. That's really worked because when we create the content that addresses that question that's behind the search, if somebody's searching for, how much does it cost to build a house? You don't have to answer that question because there is no answer. It depends on how many square feet. It depends on, what kind of roofing, what kind of flooring. There is no one-size-fits-all answer, but they do want the question to be addressed. They want to know, well, how do I kind of ballpark how much it's going to cost me? I know how many bedrooms I want, so how does that play in? They want to know kind of the details of how to answer the question, not necessarily getting the answer to the question. That has worked for a long time, but now we have to take it a step further. There is a shift that is happening, we got to take it a step further. You don't just address the question behind the search, but you address the intent behind the question behind the search, if that makes sense. Hang on a second, because that's really what we're going to get to at the end, but I got to build a little bit more context before we get into this. So let's go back here and talk about optimizing content. So again, we're talking about giving value. That's what we're going to talk about at the end. With optimized content in the mediums that the customer wants. The mediums can be every channel that they engage in. You should be on all of them. We used to say just focus on one. Now you got to be on all of them. You got to give value with optimized content. Now let's talk about optimizing that content, because I think this is where a lot of people struggle with optimizing content. And this, I'm going to talk about optimizing for written content, but the same principles apply if you're publishing a video, if you're publishing a podcast. The same principles apply. So the first thing that you have to optimize is human first. The algorithms are trying to become as much human as possible. They're still machines. They still operate like machines. So you optimize for them second. But the first thing that you do is you optimize for the human. So let's talk about the very first thing. I'm doing this with written content, but it matters to every other piece of content. So I can't cover, YouTube and LinkedIn. I can't cover all those channels in one conversation, but I can cover the principles of it. So the first thing that you got to think of, let's say with a YouTube video, how is someone going to find your YouTube video? Well, they're either going to find it from a link, so a referral, or they're going to find it from, they're watching a video and it comes up in suggested videos, or they're going to find it when they're searching. And most of the time what you'll find is people find your videos because they're searching. If you're optimizing for them and you're optimizing for the machine, most of your YouTube video views are going to come from search. When people search in YouTube, they get a list of results, just like they do on Google. And when you optimize for the human first and the machine second, you optimize for that interaction, just like you would on Google. So let's talk about how you do it on Google, because I think that's what people kind of grasp the most. And then you'll have to take those principles and apply them to YouTube, to apply them to LinkedIn. It all works the same. But the very first interaction, when someone goes to Google and they enter in a search, the very first interaction that they get from you is the result, the SERPs, the search engine result page. They get that little piece of information that's going to compete with everybody else's piece of information. So even if you rank number 2 on Google, right, your little tiny entry is competing with the number 1, the number 3, and all the rest on page 1, right? All you get is that little bitty piece. And that is very, very important. The purpose of the meta, so all this, let's just call all of this meta. This is the meta description. But the purpose of this is to sell the click. On the YouTube results page, you got your title and your thumbnail. The job of those things is to sell the click. You've got just a little bit of real estate here to entice someone to click your result. All right. Once they click, that's another story. You got a whole new set of tasks ahead of you. But at the very beginning, you have to optimize both for the human and the machine. The machine so that you get into the top few results, then the human for you to get the click that brings them to your website. Now, it's kind of a cart before the horse kind of situation here, because if you optimize for the machine, you might hit number 1. But if you don't optimize for the human, people are going to click the other results more than yours. And if people click the other results more than yours will eventually fall down. So you have to balance between optimizing for the machine and optimizing for the human. Let me explain what I'm talking about here. There's a lot of different variables that Google measures from the algorithm as to what is going to end up on the first page. The keyword is kind of the big one. Keyword and the authority of the page, the authority of the domain, links coming in. Those are kind of the major drivers. But if you search for best inbound marketing agencies, you're going to find our old article here that we just refreshed a little while ago. And it's fallen down to like number 2 or 3. We used to be number 1 for that. But we've got the 7 best inbound marketing agencies updated for 2019, and then our brand name that gets added there got truncated. But this is the title tag of your page, right? This is the title. This is the URL, and this is the meta description. When Google does their algorithm thing, the best inbound marketing agencies right there, that is the keyword that we're optimizing for. And so we use that keyword in the title. We have that keyword in the URL. And then when you get into the post, which I'll show on the next thing, that's a good question, Digitopia. We'll talk about that in a second. When you use the keyword there, use the keyword in the title, and you use the keyword in the content, that gives Google the signal that, hey, this page is about the best inbound marketing agencies, right? And so they're measuring that in their algorithm. That keyword usage gives them a signal that this is about that keyword. And then they use all those algorithmic things, the domain power, the page authority, inbound links, social signals. They measure all these things and say, okay, we know this is about the best inbound marketing agencies. Let's figure out where this belongs in the search results. The thing that they used to measure is if you had the keyword in the meta description. It was another signal. Now they say that they don't actually use the meta description in their algorithm. There's a reason for that. It still impacts your ranking, but it's not part of the algorithm. This is where the human and machine thing comes into play. So what happens is they don't take into account the meta description in their algorithm, but it impacts because that's the human element. So again, the purpose of your search engine result content here is to sell the click. And this is what the person reads before they click the headline most of the time. This is your little piece of microcopy that has to appeal to them to click. And if you don't do a good job of selling the click, then less people will click, and you get a less what they call click-through rate. So out of 1,000 or out of 100, 1,000 people, whatever, how much percentage of them clicked on your link as opposed to the others? No matter how much domain authority you have, no matter how many backlinks you've built, no matter whatever, if you're sitting at number 1, but more people are clicking on the number 2 result, you will eventually fall below them. And if more people click on the number 3 result than yours, you'll fall below them. And it will just happen because Google wants to give the most value at the very beginning. So your purpose for your meta is to sell the click. I can't overestimate the power of the meta description. And here's just a little trick that we've learned over time, is the power of the cliffhanger. Here we've got this internal debate between me and another guy on our team. And he thinks that this is a really good one because this best inbound marketing agencies, we're starting to name them, but we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We got them all right there. You don't even need to click through and read it, right? So I'm kind of poking him if he's watching this stream today, because there is no reason for me to click that if I know who Impact is, if I know who PR 2020 is, if I know who Media Junction, Kuno Creative, Element 3, SmartBug Media. I don't have to go look. You've got all of them right there. Why would I click on that? Make sense? Now, in his opinion, you see these and you're like, oh, why are they number 1? Or why are they in the top 7, right? So you click on that. And we've ranked ourselves there. Everybody's taking that like, yeah, right, you're number 1. You're one of the top 7. Of course you are. It's your content, right? And so we lose a little bit of credibility there, in my opinion. My favorite kind of meta description is one that builds a cliffhanger. And Digitopia, I just got your joke. How do you get on our list of the 7 to number 8? I don't know. Send me an email, ryan@lean-labs.com, and we can talk about that. I just got it. Sorry. I thought you were talking about how do we get into the top few of Google, but so I'm just slow today. I'm trying to broadcast, all right? How to increase organic traffic without backlinks, or that's a probably not the greatest title because it's truncated. But let's look at the meta description. You don't have to build a ton of backlinks to increase your organic traffic, and you can stop paying for ads as well. With this strategy, your traffic ... do it seriously. Send me an email. Your traffic ... The principle of truncated here, and we do it on purpose. We don't wait for the search engine to do it. The principle of it is you open a loop and people want to click through and read it. Now, this isn't the greatest. I would probably say with this strategy, your ... and they're wondering my what, but when we say your traffic, obviously we're going to say it grows. So it's not the greatest open loop here, but I would probably end it with this strategy, comma, your ... and they're wondering, okay, what were you going to say? My what? And it leaves an open loop in their mind, so they're much more likely, if this title has appealed to them at all, or if it's matching, it's congruent with their search, and that opens a loop, they're much more likely to click that. So when you add the cliffhanger, and you have to put some creativity into it, but you add the cliffhanger, you'll get a higher click-through rate, and with a higher click-through rate, you can actually start to displace some of your competitors' rankings, simply because they're getting lower engagement. And if you search for any term, you're going to see people that don't even set their meta descriptions. So it's kind of automated. So it's just this jumble of words that don't really mean anything. That's a huge opportunity for you to create content and push it up there, build some backlinks, do some social promoting, and get that content on the first page, and then watch as Google eventually puts you above, because more people are clicking on your results. Here's a way that you can look at this. Go to Google Webmaster Tools, look at your content, and see the click-through rate for that. If you got a click-through rate below 2%, you should try working on that. Re-optimize, make the title better, make the meta description better. But go to Google Webmaster Tools. It'll tell you out of all the times that this page has ranked, it's been clicked on this much percent. And the lower percent, you need to bring those up, and you'll get a lot of organic results out of it. So let's talk about the content side. If you're going to optimize content for search, then it becomes some on-page, and this is some things again where you have to kind of balance between. You have to balance between the search engine and the human, right? So the title of the post, again, that shows up on SERPs, most of the time, most people code their blogs so that the title tag becomes the H1 at the top, the big headline, right? And that's probably how it should be. And then you have an intro. Again, you got a problem here. Not a problem, but you have a task in your intro. Your intro is the most important piece of your blog when people get there. The meta is the first most important piece. The second most important piece is the intro, because you have to confirm. Our attention span is so limited. You have to confirm in the first few words that the intent behind the search. Let me switch over here. So I'm cutting off my thing here. Let's see if I can. There we go. You've got to reaffirm that the intent behind the search is actually going to be addressed here in this content. So your intro needs to be very interesting, and the point of the intro is to sell the click, either on the read more tag. So a lot of blogs, the blog listing page, it gives you a little bit of text before the read more tag. The job of that text is to make them click on it and come to your blog post. If they're coming to your blog post from search, the job of the intro is to sell the read. You want to get them to scroll down. If somebody comes and then bounces right back to Google, that is a very negative symbol or signal to Google that this page that's ranking is not addressing the thing that the people that are searching want. Therefore, it's going to start falling in rankings, because people are coming to your page and they're saying, this is not what I want. And they're bouncing back, and Google's saying, you know what? When people go to this one, they go and stay. They go and read, and so I'm going to give this one a little bit more authority. And so the job of the intro is to sell the read, get them to scroll, put a good hook in there. What do they want? Hook them with that, and get them to read. And then the H2 tag, what I try to do normally, Keyword optimization here is important in the H2 tag. Right after the read more tag, after the intro, I like to put my H2 headline. And the H2 or subheadline, whatever, I usually just make a variation of the title. And if I can use the keyword that I have in the variation, fine. If I have to use a close variant of the keyword, I do that. But I try to basically kind of affirm the title in the H2 tag, because this is just basically moving them down. And then the segue text, I kind of introduce the meat of the article, and then I start getting into the meat of the article. Now, for both humans and machines, you need to use the subheadings. You need to use H2s, H3s, and H4s, right? Sometimes even H5s, because when it comes to keyword usage, whatever keywords are in the heading tags, they get a little bit more notice from Google. And from a human standpoint, we don't read all this most of the time unless it just really piques our attention. We scroll through and we might read this, we might read this heading, but most of the time we have a question, and just by reading headings, we should be able to understand kind of what you're saying. That's very important. A lot of people try to fight that. You know, they try to be coy in their headings so that they want people to read every word like it's a magazine or it's a book. People don't do that online. And so instead of fighting that and trying to force someone to read to get the value, why not just create the content that gives them the experience they want? And so what I try to do with every article that I write, if you know what my title is, the promise that I'm making in the title, you should be able to scroll through and basically get what I'm saying through my headings. And my hope is that one of the headings or the conclusion, if you've gone through and you got value from the headings, will hook you a little bit, right? But I don't want to make you read the fine print, the regular copy, in order to get value. I want to give value as quick as possible, because really I want them to get to the end of the article and I want them to take the action that I'm trying to move them toward. More on that in a second, the intent behind the intent. We'll talk about that in a second. So your H3 tag, you can use keywords here. I recommend using variations. So if it's tennis shoes, maybe you use sports shoes. If it's tennis shoes for running, maybe you use running shoes. But switch it up a little bit. Use a variation. I always go to Google Suggest to find the variation that I use. I don't just make one up, right? I try to use optimized variations, keywords that actually matter. Because if I find a keyword that gets 100 searches a month in a long tail, and it shows up in here and nobody else is optimizing, I might rank for that as well as the term that I'm trying to rank for by optimizing. So use a little bit of, that's a great point, Digitopia. I'll talk about that in a second. But use variations of your keywords if you can, if natural, in the heading. Sometimes you have to have a heading that doesn't have keywords in it. Don't try to force it. Don't try to stuff it. But if it's natural, if it works, try to use keywords, and don't just pick keywords out of your head. Go to Google Suggest, go to SEMrush, find a keyword variation that has some search volume that is naturally a good fit there. Digitopia said this: if he can't understand, or maybe it's a she, if they can't understand the high-level story simply by reading the headings, they send it back to the copywriters for revisions. That's a really good point. Do that. Do that. It gives the internet audience what they want, and if they have a great experience with you, that's far better than forcing them to read some copy. So that's optimizing your meta. It's optimizing your post, and again, it's the same thing if you're posting a YouTube video. Hi, Joe. Well, yeah. I'll just leave that. I have female friends with the name Joe. Of course, they spell it different, but we'll get into that later. It's the same thing on YouTube. My humor is just really it's really suffering when I'm trying to operate all this stuff. I have much better jokes in person. My wife would argue with that, but if you're posting on YouTube, it's the same thing, right? Your thumbnail becomes your meta description. It's the thing that will make it's got to sell people to click on and watch your video. The title is making the promise. This is what they're going to get out of the video. Sometimes you flip that up and the title becomes the meta description and the thumbnail becomes the promise. But either way, it's the same principles. So if you're going to dominate content marketing, you have to give value. We're about to talk about that. That's the big juicy part of this presentation. With optimized content, that's how you optimize in the mediums, whatever medium your customers want. Hopefully all of the mediums your customers want, and give them the value they want in the optimized content so that they can find it in the mediums they want. So let's talk about how do we deliver value here at the end of 2019 and the beginning of 2020. There is a shift happening and it's impacting content marketing. And this is going to be controversial. We've got other agencies on the stream. We've got Digitopia. Joe might actually might find that he disagrees with this, and that's fine. But what everyone will agree on is that there is a shift, especially when it comes to content marketing. There's a shift that's happening because of a thing called oversaturation. The market wants something different. If you go back into, I think it was 1999, Seth Godin launched a book called Permission Marketing. And he was talking about way back in 99, before the smartphone was a thing, before mobile was a thing, not mobile phones, but mobile internet. He released this book, and he was talking about how the power is shifting from the salesman, because the salesman has all the information. The power is shifting from the salesman to the customer, because now the customer is doing a lot of research on the internet before they ever talk to the salesperson. So I remember a time where when I was in college where I went into, anybody remember CompUSA? That was like, I loved that store when I was in college, and I think they're all out of business now, thanks to Amazon. But CompUSA was a computer store. And I remember going in, I think I was looking for routers, and I wanted this one router, and the salesman was just pushing me towards this other router. And I was like, what? Why is this one so great? And I didn't really get any information from him. He was just pushing me towards this one. And, he was telling me all the things that are wrong with that one and how this one is better and, more range and everything. And I would look and they would say the same thing on the package, but I bought the one that he wanted me to have. And I found out later that they got a bigger, just by listening to coworkers when I was back in there again, they were talking about how they got a bigger commission if they sold that one over this one. And I was like, he just got a big commission out of me. But back then, the salesperson had all the power. They could tell you that one gets more range than this one. And even though the packages were the same, you were thinking, man, he knows what he's talking about because he's the expert, right? But now, if I want a router, I don't go to the salesperson and say, hey, educate me. I go to the internet. I go to YouTube. I go to Google. I read reviews. I read, people are on YouTube are doing tests. We're going to test the distance that we can connect using this router versus that router. And they'll go outside and they'll walk a mile down the road or whatever, testing which one has the most range. I'll watch that stuff. And by the time I walk into the store, I know which one I want. I know the pros. I know the cons. I know the comparisons. And I just want the salesman to give that one to me. And if the salesman is like, hey, here's a really good reason why you should choose this one instead. Maybe it's cheaper. Maybe it's a greater deal. I might listen to him, but it's an educated decision. It's not just based on the knowledge that he has that I don't have, right? That was the shift that Seth Godin was seeing back in 1999 when he released Permission Marketing. It was a shift where the salesman was losing power and all the information is power, was in the hands of the customer. And that revolution actually happened, and then came in inbound marketing back in that same time frame, around 2008, 9, 10. Inbound marketing began to take off because companies were starting to realize that there's something behind this, that consumers are not going to the salesperson for information, they're going to the internet. And that gave really the rise. There's a lot of early adopters a lot earlier than this, but the real rise of content marketing started around that time when companies started realizing we need to be the ones providing that content so that the customer gets their answers from us, and then maybe they will buy from us. And so that brought in the the buyer journey from content marketing, the what we've been doing really for the last forever, since like 2013, 2012, 2010, we've been building content to attract them. We're building awareness. You've probably heard the term tofu content, top of the funnel content. And then we brought them to our website, building awareness, addressing their questions. You ask, we answer, right? And so what we were doing, we were creating content addressing the question that people were going to Google. And it worked. It worked like gangbusters, man. We built awareness. And then once we got them on our website, we offered them a lead magnet, an ebook, an offer, a call to action, so that they would give us their name and email address, permission marketing. They would give us their name and email address, and we would turn them into a lead. All right. So that we had a lot of top of the funnel leads coming in because we built awareness. And then we got the lead and we had to get them interested in us, interested in our solution. Maybe not considering us as the one to buy from, but just educating them to the point that they would consider us, right? So we would create top of the funnel content. We would create middle of the funnel content. We would create bottom of the funnel content. Sometimes we would create middle/bottom. And we had all of these stages we were trying to create content for to bring people from awareness to interest, from interest to desire, from desire to consideration, from consideration to decision. And we created content along all of these different stages. Then when they became a lead, we created email series, and we had the indoctrination series, and we had the segmented sales series, and we had all of these series. And the job of, when someone downloaded our top of the funnel ebook, we'll send them 7 to 20 emails trying to get them to download our middle of the funnel offer. And when they got the middle of the funnel offer, that moved them here. Now we're going to send them all kinds of emails, moving them to the bottom of the funnel offer. And it just, that was what we were building. And it worked because the customers were saying, do not put me on the phone with a salesperson. I want to do my research. I want to look up information. I want to go down this buyer journey at my pace. Do not call me. So it worked. But there's a shift. I'm telling you, there is a shift that's happening. And if you make the transition on this shift going into 2020, you're going to be really far ahead. There's a shift that's happening, but I don't think anybody else really understands what the solution is. They see the problem, but they don't understand the solution. Let me explain this for a second. This is what I really wanted to get into, and I might only have just a few minutes for Q&A because this is really good stuff. Everyone feels the fact that this ain't working anymore. The reason it worked 5 years ago is because there were still people not creating content. And so for agencies like us, like Digitopia, we were getting clients in, and we could go to work, content marketing, tofu, mofu, bofu, because nobody else in their space was doing it, and therefore we won. And we've won a lot, right? But now it's getting harder. And the reason it's getting harder is because now everyone is doing content marketing. Everyone. The guy in his mother's basement is doing content marketing, competing with you who has 400 employees, right? You're all competing for the same questions that people are asking Google. You're all competing for the same questions. And therefore, it's oversaturated. Before, the ones that won are the ones that addressed the questions that the customers were asking. Now everybody is addressing the questions customers are asking. And so people are thinking, man, or they're at least feeling it, that it's getting harder, it's not working anymore. And now you've got the prospect, what all the gurus are talking about. Now you got AI creating content. Well, what's going to happen, when the robot is creating content? I personally don't think that's ever really going to happen, but maybe it will, right? Maybe all of our Google searches are going to go to results written by a computer. So if that's the case, where does content marketing go, right? And I believe it's in this statement. You got to address the question that they ask Google, but you also have to address the intent behind that question. And that's where we've been dropping the ball with inbound marketing for a long time. So let's continue with this. Everybody feels like it's not working. And that's why you have this. HubSpot retired the funnel and adopted the flywheel. They had this big retirement party for the funnel, and they introduced the flywheel. There's really no difference between the funnel and the flywheel. The flywheel is simply doing what I used to, like way back in 2010, I was calling it the double funnel. It's kind of funny. You might even be able to find that in some of our content, the double funnel, where when someone falls out the bottom of your funnel, becomes a customer, they drop right into another funnel that becomes kind of the referral thing. And it's basically that. It's just what they're saying is now you have unlimited funnels stacked on top of each other. It's not new. They're just reframing it because they know the funnel's not working. So how do we make it work again? How do we make funnels great again? Let's turn them into flywheels. Let's stack all kinds of funnels on top of each other. This was the funnel before. You attract, you convert, you close, and you delight, and you have all the different stages here. You got to post on the blog, you got to post social media, you got your websites, and then you get to convert. You got calls to action, forms, you got ebooks and things like that, and then you get into close. You got emails, you got salespeople, you got all this stuff, and you drop down into when they become customers. Then you delight them, and then they become promoters, and you can see they were already doing this before. Here's the flywheel. Back up here, and now the customers are going through a funnel. And this is kind of what it looks like in the flywheel world, the double funnel. But I think the symptom or the thing that's happening, you're going to see it in a bunch of other places, is that people realize that the funnel isn't working anymore, but they don't understand where it's going. And I think we can see where it's going if we really look closely, right? And so the funnel's not working. Let's make a longer funnel. Well, of course, like a company like HubSpot is going to do that because they sell the pieces that make up the funnel. So if the funnel's not working, you just need more funnel, right? So you need more of our software. Brilliant marketing from them. But when it comes to understanding how am I going to win with content marketing in 2020, it's not going to cut it just extending the funnel. Just doubling up is not going to cut it. And we also have people that are promoting something like this, which is basically the same thing. You know, before we had awareness, consideration, and decision. Now they're saying we need to create even more content. We were creating content for awareness before. Then we're creating content for consideration. Then we're creating content for decision. But now we need pre-awareness. We need education. We need evaluation content. We need decision content. We need rationalization content, ongoing delivery content. We need even more content. And it really comes down to this. And this is kind of what I said a few years ago is, you have to create content that addresses the questions that people are asking on Google. It's the only way that you get attention, right? Well, that's still true, but it's what you do with that attention that's going to make the difference in 2020. You can still get people's attention, but what are you doing with it? And when people start saying, well, content marketing isn't working as well as it used to, I've actually made this statement, I believe, to members on our team in the past. If it's working half as good, let's do it twice as much. And just saying, well, that's just how the world is. Now it's oversaturated. So if you want to win, you got to double up. You got to double down. Double down, double up. I guess that means the same thing. You gotta just work harder. You gotta be on more channels, more platforms, more content, more content, more content. And that's where the flywheel, that's where that cyclone, everything is taking us. Look, the funnel's not working, so let's just make it deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and keep doing what we're doing over a longer period of time and just understand that the world is changing. But what if the methods aren't changing? What if content marketing is still just as viable to tomorrow as it was yesterday? But once we get attention, that's where the differentiation happens, right? And this is why I think we need to understand that if we're going to create content in 2020 and we're going to win, we not only have to address the questions, the problems that people have, that they are now going to YouTube, to Google, to wherever, and asking that question. We have to address that question. We have to provide value. We have to give them what they're searching for in the moment. But we can't stop there. We have to address the intent behind the question. We don't just address the question, but we address the intent. And that brings us deeper into the funnel. So if someone is looking for or searching for the 7, or if we add Digitopia, I'm interested in if Joe actually sends me that email. But let's say we up it to 8 and we put Digitopia in that top list. If somebody's searching for best inbound marketing agencies, what they want, the question that they're asking is, give me a list of agencies that I can compare and contrast. Tell me about them. Which one should I go with, right? That's what they want. And so your content that addresses that question must deliver that. If they're looking for the best agencies, plural, they want a list of agencies and they want a list of the top ones. You can't get around that. You have to address that. But what's the intent behind them searching for that? What is driving them to Google to ask that question? Of course, top level is that they want to know what the best agencies are. Duh. Why? Why? Go a level deeper. Why are they looking for the best agencies? It could be agencies looking to see who their competitors are. In that case, who cares? But if it's the customer looking for an agency to hire, what is the intent of the search? The intent of the search is to find someone to hire. The intent behind the intent of getting a list of agencies is to hire one of those agencies. Go a level deeper. What's the intent behind hiring those agencies? Your content is going to have to start addressing those things if you want to win in 2020, because everyone else is addressing the question. Everyone else is creating the listicle. Here's the agencies. Hope you pick us. But if you're actually going to win at content marketing in 2020, you're going to have to learn to take the customer, give them the answers that they want in the moment, but then also move them toward solving the underlying issue faster. And what that means is we don't have unlimited funnels stacked on top of each other. I don't have to create tofu content, bofu content, mofu content, mofu bofu content. I don't have to create attract, convert, close, delight content. I don't have to do all of that stuff. I need to simplify. The shift, I believe, is that we're kind of coming back to, we went from the salesperson had all the power. Now we went to the consumer had all the power and they rejected the salesperson. Don't even call me. But now we're getting to the point where everyone is creating all this helpful content, and they're loading us into their tofu email series, and then their mofu email series, and then their bofu email series. And we're building this stuff for the slowest traveler. We're optimizing for the slowest traveler on the buyer journey, and just saying, well, if someone wants to jump to the end, they'll jump out of our sales series, they'll jump out of all this automation, and they'll go and hire us. But in case this person's not ready, we're going to optimize our buyer journey for the slowest traveler. The problem is that now nobody's got time for that because everyone is doing it, and people want to solve their problems. So now the shift is, it was salesman had all the power. Consumer has all the power. They don't want the salesperson. But now it's in the consumer has all the power. They're used to it, but they want to solve their problem. So we're kind of drifting back, I believe, to where they're looking for a viable solution, but then they want to talk to someone. They want to make a move because things are moving fast. I don't have 4 months to go through all of your nurturing for you to tell me that this is why you're going to meet my needs. I need to know. If I'm looking for agencies and I click over into Digitopia's website, I need to know, are you the best fit to solve our problem? And if not, I need to go. I don't want to take 3 months to figure that out. And if you're the best fit, I don't want to take 2 or 3 more weeks trying to figure out, well, are you? We're going through the content. I need you to make your case. And so what I believe is happening in content marketing, if you want to dominate in 2020, it's not only do you optimize for search, not only do you become omnipresent, not only do you address all their questions, but you address the intent behind the intent that's leading them to you in the first place. And you bring them not only to the conclusion of the question that they're asking, but move them on to solving the underlying issue 1 or 2 or 3, 4 levels deep, right? That means that I no longer create tofu content, mofu content, and bofu content, but my content across the board becomes a journey in itself. By the time somebody gets done reading my tofu blog post, they should know everything they need to know to make a decision, or at least to jump on the phone, or at least to take a bigger action, right? I need to move them and give them everything they need. And what it does is it turns my content from being informational to being a presentation. My blog post is no longer about information only. It's a presentation. Like I'm standing on stage at a conference and I've got all these people out there and I need them to make a move. I am going to give them information that's helpful and valuable. I'm going to give them the information they came to the conference wanting to get. But I'm also going to present them with what they should take home with them, right? That's the difference. We're not just addressing their question. We're addressing the intent behind the intent, sometimes 4 levels deep inside the content. How do you do that? That's a good question. And that's what we're going to talk about next week. We're going to talk about deconstructing all this. What does a blog post become if we're addressing the intent behind the intent? We're going to talk about that next week. And if you want to sign up for that, let me grab you a link to that really quickly. And if you have any questions now that we're going into this, you can post them into the YouTube chat. I know that I kind of went over, but I'll stay a few minutes late. If anybody has any questions, hopefully you'll ask them let me do this here. Now you can see me. I'm not just talking to a blank wall. If you have any questions, enter them into the YouTube chat. Digitopia Joe, I'm asking you to go ahead and send that email. I'd like to at least start a conversation with you. But if anybody else has any questions about what we're talking about, you can enter them in there. As I'm waiting on those questions to come, I'm going to try to grab that link so that you can save your seat for the next one that we're doing. Let's see here. Well, I'll just send out that email later to everybody that was here with a link to the next one because I can't grab it right where I'm at. So questions, comments, go ahead and enter them in. If not, we will end this on time. I talked way too long. I understand that. Doesn't look like there's any questions coming in. I'm going to give you a couple more minutes as I hang out here. Maybe I'll just play some music while we wait. There we go. Got some music going. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm going to wait out for, you got one more minute. Ask the question, I'll jump into it. If not, I'll be sending an email out. Brenda says that it's great info. She doesn't have a question, but her brain hurts, and that's a good sign. Good. I want this to like challenge you. I think that I know where the market's shifting. I think that I know how to dominate with content marketing moving forward. It's going to be quite a shift in methodology, but I do think that I understand where it's going, but that doesn't mean that I'm right. You could have a better idea, and I like to be challenged, so send me an email if you think, hey, you had a point on this, but what if the market wants this? go ahead and send that email. I would love to have a discussion. Maybe in the future, if you have a good point, maybe we'll bring you on to our live workshop and let you explain your side, where you think the marketing is going. Joe said he couldn't agree more. Great. Yeah, I'm telling you, agencies aren't really talking about it. Marketers aren't really talking about it, but in public, but behind the scenes, everybody's talking about it. Everybody can feel like there's a shift coming, and I think the shift is going to be just as powerful as the permission marketing shift. I think this shift is going to be just as big, and I think people that jump out in front of it and do away with all of the complex, content towers of Babel that we're trying to build. I think when we kind of ditch that and we take a customer one at a time and we say, hey, here's the answer to your question, but here's what you need to do to solve the underlying issue, I think we're going to see more people jumping into the funnel that are qualified, more people becoming leads, more people becoming MQLs, SQLs, because we're pushing them in the direction that they really want to go. And we're not trying to say, no, just slow down. First, you need the middle of the funnel offer, right? Which is what they wanted 10 years ago, but I don't think that's what they want anymore. All right, I don't see any more questions coming through. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Brenda, for the comments. We will see you on the next Wednesday's workshop, where we're going to be talking about, what does this look like in practice? Oh, here comes a question from Christina. Do you think people are looking for more behind the scenes after we choose your type of content, the stuff that you can't easily outsource to an agency or writer to produce, so it's not as saturated? I do. That's a very interesting question, and I actually think that Russell Brunson, if any of you guys know who he is, I think he's actually got a beat on this, and he's probably ahead from a lot of people. Gary Vaynerchuk has been talking about it for forever, but I don't think a lot of people are putting it into practice. When you're talking about behind the scenes content, I do think that people want to see that, because people don't want to just be customers. They want to be fans. They want to be a part, especially if what you're selling is a vital part of their life, their work, or whatever. They want to be proud of the decision they make. So let's just say that you sell fiber optic internet for businesses, commercial internet. The people that make the decision to buy your services over Comcast, they don't want to just say, yes, we chose, Acme Internet over Comcast, and so now we've got Acme Internet. They want to be 100% confident that Acme is such a better choice than Comcast. And if you take that to the extreme, they want to be wearing Acme Internet t-shirts. They want to see like, man, this guy, he chose Acme over Comcast, and we are 400% happy that this guy is on our team, because everybody else would have chose Comcast, but he saw the value in. They want to engage more with the brand on kind of an emotional level, a personal level. They want that relationship. We've been trying to build all of that before they become customers in our content, but I think it takes a different shape. Taking a long time to answer this, but let's come back to it. Gary Vaynerchuk's been saying this for a long time, that people's mobile phones are the new television, and the social networks are ABC, NBC, and CBS, right? But if you take that a little bit further and modernize a little bit, like he's talking like the 1950s 3 TV channel thing, modernize it a little bit, where it's not the 1950s, it's the 1990s, and we have hundreds of channels, not 3 channels. There might be hundreds of channels, but your customers operate on 3 or 4 of them. Most likely, in most cases, your customers are using Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, maybe if you're B2B, and Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and maybe a few more, but those are kind of the big ones. You can't just post the same content on each platform and get a lot of engagement. That's not omnipresence. Posting the same video to YouTube, to Facebook, to Instagram, and to LinkedIn, that's not omnipresence. That's spamming, really. So if you have different channels, you need to understand what your customer wants out of that channel. What experience do they enjoy out of that channel? And the way that Russell Brunson has kind of broken it down, I wish I had my book here because I wrote it down. I heard him talk about this on a podcast once, but he looks at his blog as kind of the information source. He's writing these in-depth posts, research, and all of that. His blogs become the information source. YouTube becomes his sitcom, his show, right? It's the longer episodes. It's kind of they're entertaining, they're longer. And if you go to Russell Brunson's YouTube channel, you'll find that he does a lot of these things called Funnel Fridays, where he gets on and it's like 30, 45 minutes, an hour episode. And it's all kind of, fun, and they have masks on and all this stuff. But then he looks at Instagram as his kind of reality series. And so Instagram is very much behind the scenes. He's taking video of their live stream. He's taking video of when he gets up in the morning, and it's this very personal, behind the scenes kind of Kardashian-ish reality show. And in his mind, that's kind of how it's all different. And then podcast becomes his radio show. So he has a sitcom on YouTube, he has a radio show on podcast, and then he's got behind the scenes with Instagram and Facebook. I can't remember what Facebook was. But anyway, the point is that I think people do want behind the scenes to build that relationship, but it doesn't mean that you do a lot of behind the scenes content on your blog, because it's really hard to do that, right? And maybe behind the scenes on YouTube, because people are using YouTube to answer their questions now, they're actually using it like a search engine. Behind the scenes might not get much engagement either, from a new audience, from an established audience maybe. But where people would engage with that behind the scenes content is like Instagram. If they go and they find you on Instagram, they don't want to see your overly produced video. They want to see people, right? They want pictures of people. They want stories of people. And I think that's where the behind the scenes come in. And I think companies need to do a lot more of that. Just look, Gary Vaynerchuk, for one, kind of breaking the mold, but every piece of his content is behind the scenes. His YouTube videos are videos of him doing a video with somebody else or being interviewed on their podcast. So he is taking the behind the scenes footage to the extreme. But one of the things that we don't go to a restaurant unless we see photos, read the menu before we go. Like service-based industries are lacking content that shows what's it going to be like when you're a customer. Exactly right. Exactly right. That's kind of what I've been talking about, is that we need to talk about that. We've been so afraid of talking about sales in our content marketing because we want to be tofu. We don't want to scare them away. But people are like, I want to know, should I buy you or should I not? Should I buy your services? Should I buy your product or not? Is one of these other options better for me? And I think if we create more content talking about what the experience is going to be like, and being okay with the fact that if we say our experience is like A, people that want experience B are going to leave, we have to be okay with that. We have to be okay with the fact that we're not the best fit for everyone. But I'm positive if we start talking about we're the best fit for A, if you're A, you need to come and you need to do business with us. This is what you should expect. This is what it's going to look like. This is what we're going to do. If we begin to address that and talk about that right out in the open, we'll shun away the people that are best fit for B, but we'll attract more of the customers that are looking for experience A. And I think that's kind of a difference too, because we've been kind of general in that, wanting to get everybody in, not wanting to send anyone away. And so we think that we're getting more because we're getting A and B. But the fact is that there's a whole lot more of A that are not choosing us because they're not sure that we're experience A as opposed to experience B. I don't think behind the scenes content answers that question much. I think behind the scenes content builds your brand relationship. But I do think the kind of content that is like the restaurant posting the menu at the front door, they do that. They're not scared, right? If I want a steak and I go down to the veggie grill, and I see their menu on the window, I'm probably not going to go in because I want steak. Why are they not afraid of that? Why are they not afraid to say this is what we offer and this is the price? Because they know that the people that are looking for the vegetarian menu are going to come in the droves. So I think Christina is actually hitting the nail on the head there, maybe even faster than I was, and I'm going way over my time today. But I think you're exactly right. We need to start talking about this is what we offer. Here's the menu on the front of the door before you ever come in. Here's what we offer. Here's the experience you're going to have. This is, we offer steak, but here's what's seasoned in our steak. Here's what you get with the steak. You get mashed potatoes, you get that. We need to offer that same kind of menu option for people at the door. We've been hiding it. We've been saying, come in at the door, come in and be seated, talk to your waiter, order drinks. Now here's the menu if you're ready for it. I think that's the big shift that's happening. We don't do that. We give people the menu on the street corner before they ever talk to the hostess, right? I think that's where people are wanting to go. So I think Christina is hitting the nail on the head there as well. I'm way over my time. It is now an hour and 11 minutes, so I'm going to end this. If you have any more questions, you can send them to ryan@lean-labs.com, and I will respond to your emails there. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next week, where we talk about how do we deliver the menu on the front door experience in our blog content, in our video content. How do we abandon tofu, mofu, bofu? We'll talk about what that looks like in practice in shoe leather next week. Again, thank you for tuning in, everyone. I've had a really good time today. This is getting a lot of fun. Hopefully the stream was good quality and there was no errors like last time. And I will see you on the next one. I just realized I've been playing music the whole time I've been talking. Oh my word, that's got to be so frustrating. I was just going to do that as a joke. I'm sorry, guys. Hopefully that wasn't so frustrating, the music playing. But anyway, we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Next Wednesday, 12 o'clock Central Standard Time, we're going to be talking about content marketing. Make sure that you come back. If you register for this, you will get an email about that coming up soon. We'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in.